Retro PC Durham, Chris here. I've got an unboxing video for you, and I'm gonna need this. I gotta cut open this box that came in the mail today. All right, so this is not new. This is a used product that I purchased off of eBay, and yeah, as you can see, it is a Lenovo Legion product, and probably by the title of this video, you already know what it is that this is actually. So the reason why I wanted to get this was I was interested in getting an eGPU set up to try. I've always either had like a standalone system with a GPU, or I've tried to go with like desktop replacement style laptops that have like discrete graphics built into them. And sometimes it's good and sometimes the experience is not so good, especially with more modern laptops now that they're trying to focus on thin and light and powerful. Yeah, there's a crossroads there that, you know, you're giving up a lot sometimes. So I was thinking to myself, hey, why don't we try an eGPU setup and see how that works for us? So that's what we're doing here. I had looked online for local buys for used eGPUs, particularly the Razer Core X. But I couldn't really find any great deals. And then I came across this one on eBay from a seller in England. And this product apparently, I'm not even sure if it was sold in North America. I get the feeling that it may have been one that was kind of released and maybe they tested out to see how well it would sell, and it didn't sell as well as they thought it would or whatever. And then it, you know, just kind of fell by the wayside. Or could have been the fact that originally these sold with a graphics card installed in them. I think an RTX 2060, and it might have been right around the time of like when mining was making a big push. And as a result of that, I gotta move this camera clip out of the way. As a result of that, people may have been just buying them and pulling the cards out of them, or it was very difficult to source cards, so you couldn't really sell these without a card in them, which I would have said they should have just done from the beginning. But it's like almost brand new condition, if not brand new condition. So we've got a ship group here. We'll take a look at that in a second, and then we've got our package here with our unit right in there. So I'm going to shimmy this guy out, I think, just like that, and then just go off screen for a second so I can remove the box. Okay, and then we're back, and we will put it up on its side. This is foam, not styrofoam, they're like packing foam. And flip it over on this side and remove our packing foam. And yeah, this, I'm not even sure, like it's almost like this may be one of those units that somebody bought, took the graphics card out of it and put it back in the box, because it's still got like the foam here, it's still got the like warning label here about when you're disassembling it. It looks like it's never being used. Okay, so that's out of the way. All right, we'll take a look at the ship group here. Pop this open. We've got our UK power cable. Of course, I'm not going to use this. I will use a standard power cable for North America. We've got what looks like some kind of retainer clip, maybe, depending on the type of GPU you're installing. We have a SATA cable, because this thing I do believe has control for an internal hard drive. A bunch of screws. We've got a manual here. Service support and warranty info. We've got an installation card, which kind of tells you, what to plug in, where to plug everything in. We don't need that, do we? We have a GPU size guidance. And I guess this is a temporary cover here. If you don't have a GPU installed, you can put that in place. And then we have a Thunderbolt 3 cable. And I will use this for testing, but I'm pretty sure the way I'm going to set this system up this cable is probably not going to be long enough for my setup because I will be setting this up, mounting it out of the way, and a 0.7 meter cable is not going to be long enough. So I'm actually going to order a Thunderbolt 4 cable that's longer than this, and use that once I get set up. But for today, we're gonna use this cable because it's the one that we have. And let's take a look at our unit now. We'll stand it up here, and we will. So you just, yeah. So when you pull this little handle here, it unlocks it, and you can slide it out. You can slide it out from the case, and it just comes right out. And then the inside of this is just for looks. Well, there's a power button in the front to turn it on and off, I guess. Yeah, and then we've got our unit in here. We've got a light-on power supply. This is, I believe, a 650 watt. Very small lettering on this particular power supply. 500 watts. So it is a 500 watt power supply, ATX power supply. It is not a modular power supply, so it's only got whatever cables you've got in here. But that should be fine. And again, you're not powering a whole computer with this. You're only powering the GPU and some other components, right? So on the back, we've got Thunderbolt connection. We've got a couple of USB ports, USB 3 and one USB 2, and then we've got a gigabit Ethernet port. So you can use this kind of as a dock, which is my intention actually, is I want to try and see if the Thunderbolt can handle this. I've read online that sometimes it can be a challenge, but have the DGPU. This is going to drive 2 external monitors that I have set up currently, as well as give me that additional performance boost for some gaming or whatever, and some render, doing video renders and whatever. And then also give you some Ethernet. So this will kind of idea is to replace my existing Thunderbolt dock and give me GPU capability. There's a small fan on the front here. We've got our power button there, and then our board here, and then there's a spot here where you can actually install a 3.5-inch drive. So there's some plugs, I guess. Yeah, so there's some plugs here that we have access to. We'll just untwist, and we've got access to a 6-pin power, an 8-pin power, and then we've got a SATA power that we can make use of. And I'm not going to install a hard drive on here. I have a NAS already in the house that I use for storage and backup and all that stuff, and I don't really have a need for having a second backup storage. But I do have a need to install a GPU into this, which is what we're going to do now. And what I am going to do is show you what I picked up a couple weeks back. Someone was selling, I was looking online, and I managed to find a deal here for this. Not super awesome, but still, super good. Used GeForce RTX 2070. And I picked this one up from somebody who had upgraded to a 3000 series, and they were really happy with how well they used it. I have tested it already to make sure that it does work and it can handle some overclocking. I didn't go crazy with the overclocks on it, just enough to test and make sure that it actually worked. So we got an overclock. It is in very good condition, and I was told as well that there is still warranty left on this, but it'll probably be gone by the time I ever have a problem with it. So got this nice RTX 2070 to install in it as well. So that's going to fit in very nicely inside here. And yeah, so why don't we get a look at doing that installation now. And I think it's just a matter of fitting this card in here, snapping into place, okay? And then I can't tell if these, I guess these are probably, see, the label here says these are hard drive upgrade screws, but there's a lot of screws here. So I'm not sure why you need this many screws, and I'm not sure if these screws maybe are usable for installing as well. I'm just going to see if they thread. Yeah, it does thread. So I'm just going to go ahead and use that there. So our drive is installed, and then we've got our single 8-pin power. We'll go here, and these guys will stay out of the way. We'll just tuck those Where are they gonna go? They gotta go somewhere. Get out of the way, guys. These extra power cables that we're not using. We'll keep them out of the way so they don't bother anything else. Well, I guess if we can get them to stay in this little clip here that they're supposed to stay stuck in, they'll be staying out of the way. Okay, so we've got that plugged in. Looks good. Now we will put this back down and slide back in. So there we go. We're ready to go. Now we just need to, I guess, power up, right? We need to power up now, and then we'll plug in, correct? So let's try powering up and see what happens. We're going to power up. I'm going to plug in the back here. I'm going to plug in my Thunderbolt cable as well, just so I have it ready. And okay. So we're good? We're good, I think so. We got our little Legion thing blinking there. I mean, I think that tells me everything I need. No? Maybe? Okay, well, if that's the case, let's see what happens now. I'm going to bring my laptop over. Got my X13 Yoga here, and we're going to see what happens when we plug in. Oh wow, we're making noises here. We are making noises. So I have a notice here that we have a slow charger notice that's come up, which is interesting because this is supposed to be providing a fair amount of charge strength through the Thunderbolt cable, and I only need 65 watts to charge this. So that is very interesting indeed. All right, so let's take a look and see. Did Device Manager already find something or not? So Device Manager has found a PCI device and a Microsoft Basic Display adapter, which is a good sign. It's seeing an additional adapter, right? This laptop only has eGPU, so it's just got the Intel Iris Xe graphics. Actually, let me turn this down here so you can see this a little bit better. I've only got Iris Xe, so we've got our Microsoft Display adapter. So let's see now. If I go to, is it installing stuff? I don't want to immediately go and try to install stuff if it's, yeah, so yeah, there it goes. It has just picked it up. The NVIDIA, what's happening? So the GeForce RTX 2070 has been discovered and is installed. NVIDIA control panel has now been installed. Oh, you are not currently using a display attached to an NVIDIA GPU, so I may need, there may be more installation that has to go on here or restarts that need to go through before that starts working properly. I know my background has been reset. We've got, yeah, so we've got all of these host controllers have been installed. Let's see, network devices, network adapters. We've got, what is it? This Realtek USB Gigabit Ethernet family controller, I believe is not one that I normally have on here, so that's been installed. Let's take a look and see. Yeah, we definitely have connectivity here. So I'm gonna do a like a restart just to make sure, like maybe it just needs to do a restart and then everything will show up correctly, and then we'll see if we're working properly. So I'm gonna do a quick cut. So there's probably some tweaking that I'm gonna need to do to figure out exactly all the ins and outs of this. when I try to load in the NVIDIA control panel, it says it basically won't let me do it because it's saying that the 2070 isn't powering this screen, right? Which it technically isn't. The screen is plugged into the iGPU, and then right. But when I run the Heaven benchmark here, and I just run the like baseline, like it's on high, like standard config, at native resolution full screen, so 1080p, and we're like 100 and well, right now 130 frames per second, and this is running off the RTX 2070. As soon as the benchmark started up, the fans started to go on the 2070. Very, very low. The fans are barely running in terms of what it needs to do to work. Just because of the bandwidth limitations of the Thunderbolt 3 connection, you're only going to get so much throughput. You're not going to stress the card out all the way, but it's running very smooth. And if this would be compared with running it on the iGPU, the difference in terms of performance is literally night and day. Like we're talking about a massive difference in terms of performance on here. So I'm like just initially set up here, right? As I mentioned, like this isn't my final setup, having it sitting on the workbench here. I'm going to be having this plugged in and using it as essentially a docking station, and it'll be powering two external panels that I'm expecting we're going to get better quality out of, because my understanding is when you've got an eGPU, you have to not only, right now what's happening is the computer is sending all the information on what it needs the 2070 to do. The 2070 is doing the work, and then it's sending the finished product back to the computer to be put up on this screen. If I have an external panel, it's going to do all the work to the GPU, and then the GPU is just going to send it out to the screen that it's connected to, which cuts down on some of the data latency. And I think my understanding of what I've read is you've only actually got like 18 to 20 gigabit per second of bandwidth in this connection, because there's other stuff that gets used on that cable. So that's why you have problems with stuff like if running a gigabit Ethernet connection and USB ports and all that stuff on top of trying to do the throughput for the GPU can be a problem sometimes. Anyways, I'm going to experience that for myself over the next couple of weeks to see what it actually is like. But I'm hoping that what I'm going to be able to get out of this from an experience is if I do want to do gaming or something, I can get away with doing something, 60 frames per second is what I have on my panel. So I'm not, a big issue. And I play basically like casual play an MMO here or there, where I play older games like Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition. I don't even need to plug into an eGPU for something like that. I just play that on the laptop screen. Usually I turn off go to airplane mode and sit down on the couch or something, and then I could play like for 13 hours without ever running down the battery playing a game like that. But if I want to do like my video editing for the channel, I've noticed that the difference of going back and forth between a computer that has a discrete graphics card and then using the iGPU, it takes considerably longer to render a video. And if I've got some of the longer ones that come on the channel sometimes where it's like 30 minutes long or something, 40 minutes long, it can take a while for that render to take place. This will greatly speed it up, right? And I'm not worried about FPS or anything like that, or anything going on the screen, because we're sending a job to the GPU and it's sending it back as a finished product. I don't think that we're going to have too much trouble in terms of bandwidth issues in terms of that functionality when it comes to doing that work. And the CPU is going to bottleneck that regardless anyway, to a certain extent. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how this has turned out. It's a cool, sleek little machine. I think it's great that we managed to come across a unit that, instead of me spending maybe 250 to 300 Canadian on a used eGPU that someone's had and had been working on a regular basis that's got some wear and tear in it, this cost me probably about $300 Canadian, and I'm pretty sure has never actually been used, because it's very likely that what I said is someone bought this, they ripped the RTX 2060 out of it and either used that or sold it for profit, right? Scalping essentially. and this has been sitting in their floor waiting for someone to buy it up, and they never actually needed it in the first place. But because it's sold for $400 or $450 or whatever, comparable in the UK, and they could buy that with the 2060 in it, that was probably selling for $800, $900 at the time when this came out. So that's pretty cool. If I feel the back on this, how much heat it's throwing off, it's throwing off a little bit of heat. It's nothing terrible. The benchmark says that it's 68 degrees, 69 degrees. So running pretty cool. Memory's running at 7,000 megahertz, graphics running at 2100 megahertz. And again, we were anywhere from like 120 to 160. I didn't run the actual benchmark pull here. I'm just letting it run through the loop to see how it's going as a kind of a stress test. And it seems fine. So I'm really happy with this overall. Yeah, so that'll wrap it up for taking a look at this brand new, pretty much, Lenovo Legion boost station with an RTX 2070 that I picked up as well, used, that's in good condition. I'm going to play with this maybe for a little bit, and then I'm going to order up that longer Thunderbolt cable and get it set up in my desktop setup, and then maybe I'll, I don't know, in a month or so or something, I'll show off the finished product and see how it's going. But yeah, I think this is pretty cool. Hope you enjoyed checking this out, this little unboxing and test video here. If you're interested in getting an eGPU, or you have one today, share your feelings on this kind of design or setup. If you think it's worth it or not worth it. There's so many different ways that we can enjoy our computing experience. That's why all these different ways of doing it exist. So you can find the one that's right for you. I don't know if this is right for me, but I'm going to give it a try, and maybe we'll see if it works out really well or not. Yeah. So as always, I hope you are staying safe and healthy, and we'll catch you in the next one.